Hey everyone, Leo with Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our jointed Mrs. Claus. The long-awaited Christmas version of our jointed figures that we made for Halloween is finally here, and I'm doing my first one right now. Actually, it is Mrs. Claus. So as you can see here in front of me, I've already sort of started piecing things together, and we're going to do things systematically, kind of like a little assembly line. And once we have all the separate sections put together, we'll put it all together with the brads. So we're going to kind of work our way around from the perimeter to the inside. As you can see here on this area here, I have the feet and the legs. Okay, so your main layer is this red layer. What we're going to do is we're going to take the black shoe and get that glued into place. This is one of those projects where if you have a brayer, it may come in very handy. And I also will be using my cutting mat to kind of keep things nice and flat while I'm working on other sections. Okay, so we're going to begin by putting the black part of the shoe on top of the red section. Just make sure that you've got everything nice and lined up. And here is where the brayer will kind of speed things up for us by applying more pressure on a larger surface, more than your fingers can handle, obviously. And we'll finish it off with, well, we'll finish the shoe off with a little belt buckle. And this is cut out of a gold foil. There will be some markers right on the black part of the shoe, and that's for the top left and bottom, top right and bottom right part of the buckle. And then the left side of it should terminate right at the very edge of the shoe. Okay, so we have that. Next, we're going to take this green piece and glue that right onto the red portion. You can basically just use the little hole where the brad goes as your guide, your initial guide, and then obviously down here towards the bottom of her pant, I want to match that little section up as well. Give that a little scooch if you need to, and press that down. Okay, and then we have this little trim piece that's going to go right here at the bottom of her little knickers, or whatever they're called. Okay, there we go. And voila. Okay, so there is leg number one. I'm going to put that under my mat so that it dries nice and flat. And it doesn't really matter which order you do this in. This time I'm just going to start with the green section and get that in place. And as I haven't made this yet, but I kind of pieced it together without gluing it. This will certainly be a project that you can do with your kids, as many of you did projects with your kids for Halloween. We had the witch, the skeleton, and our little pumpkin head. And saw tons of kids make these. And it was really fun to see them get involved. And I think that with Christmas being even more popular, you know, a lot more traditions involved in with Christmas. I'm expecting to see a lot more photos of you working with your grandkids or your kids or your cousins, nephews, nieces, whoever it may be. It's going to be very exciting. And this is the next piece here, just like we did on the other foot. I'm just going to make sure that I cover everything. Now also, I did do some inking on this project. I did inking on all three of them, actually, in this bundle. And you want to just be very strategic with the inking on this, because there are areas that you won't need to put any ink on. So for example, I did hit the edge of this with a darker green, but I did not ink the dark green part underneath this white section. So I would take a look at the final photo to see where you need to ink and where you don't need to ink. I will also be pointing it out as I go here. Okay, so there goes the other foot. Let's do the hand and the arm. This is 2 layers. Okay, so I'm going to glue these two layers together first, and I did ink the edge of just the fingers with a little tan, like a light tan color, just to give it a little bit of depth. And that's all I inked. I didn't have to go up any higher because we have a green color that's going to go on top of it. So all we needed to ink was just the little hand part. Make sure the hand matches up there, as well as the little hole for our brad. Run your brayer over that. Okay, and then we've got this green piece. Obviously I inked here, all the way down here, but I did not ink this piece because it's not necessary. We're going to be putting that white piece on top of it. Okay, so let's get our glue on here. Try to work that glue out to the edge as far as you can go. Line that up there. Okay, grab that brayer, press it down. We'll grab this white section and get that in place. And press that down. Okay, so there is one of the arms. Again, I'm going to take that and pop it underneath my mat while I work on the next section. And this is just a repeat of what we just did on the other side. So we're going to glue one layer to the other layer just to make it a little bit thicker. Most of this project has at least 2 layers on it. In every section, you'll see. Some have more. Okay, so match that up nicely. Get it as even as you can. Make sure that the little hole for the brad is lined up as well, so it's not obstructed. You can get that brad in there nice and easy. And we'll put the green part on. Sometimes it's just nice to have these little paper piecing projects. This is all pretty much non-3D stuff. I mean, it kind of comes out sort of 3D-ish because it does have some depth to it because of the layering, but it's not like the 3D projects that we do. Still super cool though. And you know, for Halloween, our Halloween jointed figures outperformed pretty much anything 3D that we did, and it's understandable. They, I think, as kids, for the most part, we all had little die cut, especially skeletons, I'd say. Okay. Okay, so next we've got these 2 pieces that make up the shoulder area, basically. And you want to just take and pop these pieces right on top there. Just use the little holes as your guide. Obviously, that does not fit. Okay, you want it to fit perfectly onto the shadow layer. So let's get our glue on the back of this. I also inked this entire piece. So this is definitely one of those inkable pieces that you could ink the whole thing. Okay, and we're going to use the 2 little holes as our guide for placement here. Like so. Kind of looking at the little hole at the bottom there, and then going up to the top, and then at the same time just making sure that it's nice and flush with the rest of this section. Grab my brayer, give that a quick press, and we'll repeat the same thing on the other side. And then we can just focus on working on the main body. Now I'll say that inking this is probably took me more time than actually assembling it. So totally optional. If you want to ink it, that's great. If you don't, I think it's still gonna look great, but obviously spending the extra time inking will definitely take this thing over the top. Okay, so there's your 2 pieces there. We'll pop those underneath the mat and let those set. And one little thing that we can do next here is just put the bow together. This is kind of a separate piece. I also inked the dark green part of the bow. Okay, so let's get our glue on that. Try to just make sure that you get that glue out to the very edge of all of these little areas. And I think that the moisture in the air is starting to dissipate because this glue lately has been drying very quick, which is good and bad. You won't have to sit around and wait for things to dry as long, but then at the same time, you don't have as much time before things start to dry, so you gotta move quick. Okay, so there's our bow. I'm gonna pop that underneath my mat, and we're gonna start with the dress part, the bottom part. Okay, move this out of the way, and we're gonna take these two sections and glue them together like so. Now for this, the only place I inked was right here and right here. Everything else down here and up here is pretty much covered up, so we do not need to waste any ink on those sections. Okay, so don't forget that this piece with the little cutouts is going on top of this piece. Okay, and I swapped out my glue nozzle because obviously it was a little dried up in some areas, and I can't work with a glue nozzle that has very poor flow right now. I need to move quick here. Got a lot of surface area to work on here, so just try to move quickly. I'm doing little circles because I find that that is a great way to kind of control things. For me, the faster I move things, obviously not like super fast, but if I keep things moving in a somewhat of a fluid motion, I feel like I have better control over where things are going. Okay, so we're lining it up with the little holes at the top, making sure everything is nice and flush all the way down. And this is where the brayer really comes in handy. I had a little bit of glue just shoot out of there, but I'm going to take that and just rub that off before it sets and blemishes my project. Okay, looking good so far. Let me move Mrs. Claus over out of the way. There we go. Okay, check your work. If you have any little areas that maybe did not take very well, I have a small little section over here that I'm not a big fan of. I'll throw a little bit of glue on a scrap piece of paper and just tuck it in between these two layers. Paint a little bit of glue on that area that's not sitting pretty, and then just press that down and hold that for a few extra seconds. Make it nice and flush, okay? All right, so that's good. Now we've got this piece here. This little white trim portion. That's going to go right at the bottom. Just want to match that up with the two little holes there where the brads are going to go ultimately. Go easy on the glue here. This is like a POW glitter, so it's not like a true glitter, which means that it's not going to shed. And the back of this is not as porous. It's kind of smooth, so it may take a little bit longer for everything to take hold, but it shouldn't be difficult. Again, just matching up the little holes for the brads, and then everything else, all the little scalloped areas, this little circular areas at the bottom, just make sure that all matches up nicely. Run your brayer over that gently. Okay, next we have her little apron. I'm going to take and I'm going to glue the white portion down to the green portion first, just to get that set. And then we'll glue that down to the bottom part of the dress. And then we can start working on the top section of Mrs. Claus here. Okay, and all we're going to do is just match this up so it's flush at the top and centered throughout. Make sure you have a nice even border on both the left and the right, pretty much like that. Okay, we'll press that down, use our little brayer, perfect. Okay, now you see there's these two little nibs here, these little bumps. That is where the belt's going to go. So there are two markers here as well, and that is to help you with the placement of this piece here. You can almost see the little line that creates where the belt will be. This is where we need to glue this. And these little markers hug the bottom part of this first little, almost like a scallop. Okay, so pretty self-explanatory. If you want, you can leave this piece off until after you put the belt on, if you're kind of not sure about the placement. And then once the belt's on, it will pretty much be even more self-explanatory. But that's up to you. If you don't feel comfortable, I totally understand. But again, just use those little markers there as your guide, and then you're gonna have your belt here, and that's how that should look. Let's press that down, nice and easy. And there's the bottom part. We're gonna pop that underneath our mat. And here we go to the final stretch here. And I'll kind of remove these layer by layer. Okay, that's our glitter layer. Then we have the belt. Then there's a white layer and a green layer. And then here's the top part, her hair and her hats. We've got some facial features. I'm just going to take those off for now. But we're going to start off with these two layers here. We have a darker red and a lighter red. The lighter red has the cutouts on it for the bottom here, as well as this little background section for her cute little hat. Okay, so we're going to glue this on top of this first. So let's get that going. This has a little bit of surface area on it, so we got to work quickly. If you need to, you could probably break this down into two sections. So like put glue up at the top first, get that aligned, and then just kind of flip it back and glue the rest of it in place, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. Okay, just like that. And pop that on there. I'm going to use the little hole at the top initially for my placement. Here we go. And then just drop it right into place. These two holes should match up, and it should be nice and flush with the bottom as well. Okay, so next, we're going to take this layer here. I'll pop a little eyeballs out of there. And this is going on next. And we're just kind of matching it up just like we did the previous layer. Obviously, it has fewer sections. So let's go ahead and get our glue on the back of this section. This is mostly, well, there's two, this piece has two purposes. One is to thicken up the whole project, and two is because we wanted to add some, like a skin tone to the face, obviously. So we needed to choose a skin tone. Okay. There we go. And pop that right into place. I'm using that little hole at the top for my initial placement, and then getting everything else nice and lined up at the top and bottom. And don't beat yourself up if it's slightly off in one little area. No one's really going to notice, I don't think, unless they're sitting there just scrutinizing the thing. I don't see that happening. Okay, there we go. And then next, we're going to do this green layer, because the white layer is going to go on top of it. It's just so you can see this little green section kind of peeking through here. All right, so kind of working on the apron portion right now. We'll go back to the head in just a second here. Doing little circles around the scallops on her apron, down to the belt, up to the side again. Do those scallops there. Get the top, a little bit here, a little bit there. It's just kind of a lot of little areas, but it's not that bad. I'm using the little holes on each of the scallops as my visual guide for placement right now. Okay, give that a press. If you've got a little bit of glue seeping out, just try to get your finger in there and rub some of that off. Okay, there we go. Next, we'll do the white layer. This is all white. Okay. Going around the scallops here first. Working up towards the top. And then we'll do this area here and here. And then go down to the belts. Go easy on the glue as much as you can here. You don't want to overdo it. Okay, again, I'm using the little holes on the scallops as kind of my visual guide for placement initially. There we go. Grab that brayer, press everything down nicely. Now we can use this last piece here, the nice white glitter. We'll get that in place. I would say that without the inking, I think we're going to wrap this up under 30 minutes. So really cool, really quick, super festive, hint of whimsy, definitely a hint of vintage. Can't beat it. Probably Well, I don't know what something like this would cost, but I think it's priceless because it's one of a kind. You're not going to find this at the stores. Okay, so let's get our belt in place. This is the final layer for the belt. Make sure you get a little bit of glue out to the very edge of that piece. Pop that right onto the white section there. Make sure it's nice and centered, nice and lined up. There we go. Okay, wonderful. Now we also have, this is actually cut out of gold foil. That's going to go right here. And make sure that you pop it in place correctly. Why is that not working for me? Oh, there we go. And that's just going to sit right there. I'm going to throw a little, kind of actually not a little one, but actually a pretty good size rhinestone onto that section there in the center of this little medallion that she has. Oops. Okay, so now here's another thing too. We are using foil on glitter, my favorite. I just love how these two never seem to want to play nice. So if you are doing the same thing, if you've got a gold foil and you're gluing it to glitter like I am, add some extra glue to that so that it sits. It's going to need a little extra glue. Okay, let's get the hair. This is the white section. This is a glitter section. This cutout section needs to go on top of this section first. Okay, so let's grab our glue. Get that glued down to this is just plain white AC cardstock. And that's just to give her hair kind of like a two-toned sort of look, and also to thicken it up. As I mentioned, most everything in this project has at least 2 layers, and that's just to make it a little more beefy so that it isn't so flimsy. We want this thing to last. And of course, because you've got the brads, you can tuck all these, bring all the limbs in, tuck them all in, and this thing should last for years. Okay, next, we're going to take this red layer, glue it on top of, in my case, I have it on glitter. So this is where you'll need to be a little more patient if you're doing the same thing. Okay, work that glue out to the very edge, all along this piece here, like that. I'm going to use the little hole at the top. This is the little hole that you can put your little string through so that you can hang it up, or if you're just popping it onto a little nail or whatever it may be. You'll see how this does not want to sit because I'm putting it on glitter. So I have to hold it down until I'm sure it's not going anywhere, and then eventually it will dry, but I have to give it a little extra TLC. Yeah, see, that does not want to stay. There comes a point where the glue gets to a certain level of drying where it starts to get tacky and it will hold, but you got to be patient and just let it do its thing. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting here forever trying to get it glued down. So I'm just going to be patient here, and I'm just going to use my fingers. Now this little piece here, okay, that's going to go right here, right there, to make up kind of the top part of the hat. Like that. Is this thing sticking now? Are you going to be a good boy? There we go. Okay. Let's grab our glue for this piece. I'm just going to use a series of little dots here. It's such a delicate little piece, it doesn't need a lot of glue. Here we go. And you can kind of see this shape here. You just want to line it up like so. There we go. And press that down. Now luckily, the back of this is just AC, and that will glue down very easily onto the main part of Mrs. Claus here. So let's get our glue on the back of this. Okay. And just line that up with the little hole at the top. The sides of the hat at the top should match the existing shadow portion, the backmost layer. Okay, and then all that's left to do Let's throw some of her facial features on here. We have her little specs, which we need to glue down. You'll notice that there are 2 little markers there, and those 2 little markers, let me grab something I can point with here. Those little markers are gonna kind of sit right into this little valley on both sides of the lenses of her little spectacles here. Go easy on the glue here. You don't want any of this getting out and blemishing her face. That's it there and there. Perfect. Wonderful. That medallion doesn't want to sit flat because of the glitter. Okay. Then we have some nice little rosy cheeks. Just throw a little bit of glue on that and pop that into a little cutout there. It should kind of fit like a little puzzle. We'll do the same thing for the other one. And we have an element similar to that for her nose as well as her eyes. And there's also a little eyebrow. Her other eyebrow is actually right there. You can actually see it. Okay, pop her nose in there. Let's get her little crescent moon shaped eyes. Whoa. Just a few little dots of glue on that. Don't need a ton. And just pop those in like a little puzzle piece. Just like that. Should fit perfectly. We switched over to Cricut Maker to do our production stuff. I kind of retired our Sizzix Eclipse finally because, well, Sizzix doesn't support it anymore. They don't make any of the accessories for it. So we said it's time to move on, unfortunately. But I will say that the Maker is a lot more accurate and things fit beautifully. Okay. All right, so we have the little eyebrow here. Let's get that glued into place. Just a couple little dots will do. And there are a series of markers here to tell you exactly where that eyebrow needs to go. So we'll get that glued into place. And there's the top part of our Mrs. Claus. Now, you can go ahead and grab all these pieces, get them out of here. Bring them to the top of our surface, I should say. Okay, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this part, we're actually gonna glue it to this part right here, right at the belt line. Okay, so you can see how that's starting to look. So essentially all we need to do is just put glue. I'm gonna do this just to be safe, okay? I'm gonna start with glue here. I'm gonna go a little bit heavier with the glue here. I don't want it to dry out. I'm gonna bring it down here, down here. I don't want to go too far on this section, but what I will do is flip this around and throw a little bit of glue right on the bottom, right by the belt. Okay, we just want to line that up with the little belt section there. Get that nice and aligned. Nice and centered. Take a look at it from the back here, make sure everything's lining up. Most importantly, that we have, you can see all the way through the little holes where our brads need to go. Okay, there we go. Okay, now the fun part. One thing that I did, you can see here, these were at one point just gold brads. I took some acrylic paint and I painted them. Okay, and so down here I've got, this was a gold brad that I painted white and I actually sprinkled with a little bit of glitter so that it kind of matches this a little bit more. So what we're going to do is just take and pop our brad through this hole like that. You can see how much nicer that looks. Gold wouldn't look bad. It wouldn't look bad at all. So if you don't want to go the extra mile, you don't have to. Okay, but there's her first foot. We'll grab another one of these white ones. Pop that through. If it's not going through easily, that's okay. Just push it through. It'll go eventually. And spread that out. Next, I'm going to take and the arm portion is going to go like this. So you want it like this. You don't want it this way. You want it this way so that this bigger cutout is at the top. Okay, and up there, we've got, again, we have some white because this is going through It's going through some glitter on the front. I'll push that through like that. You flip that over, spread it apart. There you go. I'll grab the next one. Push that through. Wonderful. Whoops. And poke that through. You know you guys love this part. Once all the work's done, you can finally see it all coming together. This is definitely super rewarding. And she is just looking darling. I love this guy. Or this gal, I should say. Okay, so this is gonna go behind. Basically everything's gonna go behind. Now here, I've got a little bit of red. I took this gold brad and painted it red, and you can see I try to match it as close as possible. If you can't get a spot-on match, it's okay. It'll still look great. It'll almost look like a little accent piece, but that is totally fine. Okay, this is gonna go back behind this piece here, poke that through, flip her over, and there we have it. Okay, so she is pretty much done. This bow here, we're actually gonna glue this down flat, and we want this little circular part of the bow to be slightly above the belt. Okay, so I'm literally just gonna take and throw a little bit of glue right there, very simple, don't need a ton, and pop that right into place. Make sure it's centered. Make sure that it is nice and symmetrical as well. Perfect. And then finally we have some holly. And we're going to take, you'll notice that there's little score marks in the centers of each of these little leaves. You want to take and fold and pinch. So fold it in the center and then bring your fingers out to the very edge and give that a pinch. Very simple. And we're going to take that and just glue that to the top of, right at the top of her hat, roughly like that. Okay. And then we have 3 little balls here on this element where you can throw some rhinestones to mimic the berries on the holly leaf. Okay, so again, this is going to go right about here. Okay. You want to take a look at the final photo. I do have some random bling that I'm going to add to Mrs. Claus. I'm going to give her a few little buttons on her dress. We may add, what else are we going to do? Anyway, take a look at the final photo. Again, we're going to add some bling here. And what else? A nice little stone here as well. But that's pretty much it. Obviously, you've got your little hole up here if you want to hang it, or again, you can use that to simply hang it on a nail or whatever you have on your wall. But you can see how cool she looks. And when Ron designed this, he really wanted her to have her hands on her hips like that. That is super cute. So that's first of 3. I'm looking forward to, I'm putting together Santa next, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that comes out. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this project. If you did, please take a moment and visit our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. While you're there, there's a little bell that you can hit so you get notifications anytime we release a new product. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I would love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, or you can just type in this little URL that you see at the bottom of your screen. So hope you guys loved it. I'm excited. I know you guys have been wanting these for a while, so I'm very, very happy that we were finally able to bring them to you. And big kudos to Ron, because the designs are timeless and vintagey and beautiful, and everything goes together well and perfectly, actually, thanks to our engineer Diana. So anyway, had a blast. I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos, and also please consider hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section, where we have over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly videos. I look forward to crafting with you soon.